Welcome back. Let's discuss the interview I just had with President Biden's economic senior advisor, Gene Sperling. We have Alice Stewart, a Republican strategist with us, and Maria Cardona, a Democratic strategist. So I want to start with you, Maria. As you heard in the interview there, I tried to pin Gene Sperling down a couple of times on when the White House thinks inflation will come down, when Americans will start feeling relief.
Sure.
And he couldn't give me a direct answer, and he explained it that look, things are just too volatile right now. But is that acceptable to Americans who are really hurting right now?
Well, it's not acceptable to the White House. As Gene pointed out very clearly, this is something that they wake up every single day thinking about and prioritizing. That's why they worked so hard to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which Gene talked about will bring relief to exactly those families who need it the most. He talked about gas prices coming down several times because that was a huge part of what was really pinching Americans' economies, personal economies. So that has been a big relief. He talked about how the most recent news on inflation rates, while it wasn't as good as economists expected, and that's why there was, the big pessimism, the rate of inflation is going in the right direction. It's going down. The rate of inflation is going down, and that's exactly what we want to see. Not quick enough for all of us, right, including the White House.
It's fallen flat the last 2 months.
Right, and exactly, and that's why they want to continue to do whatever they can to give American families relief. And what stood out to me is that this continues to be a priority for them. Republicans will continue to criticize. I'm sure Alice is already gearing up for her talking points. But the issue is, Pam, they have no solutions. They have tried to offer nothing except for criticism.
And the bottom line is he did keep pointing out, Alice, that look, we have a really strong job market right now, and that is true.
Yeah, the unemployment rate is certainly something to brag about. But look, this comes from an administration that told us last year that inflation was a transitory problem. This was going to be very temporary, and that's not the case. We're now leading into almost 2 years of this and inching up on a recessionary period. Look, the issues that he talked about are small compared to the larger issues that impact everyday Americans. And you were very smart to continue to bring it back to the issues that impact Americans, the pocketbook issues. Food prices are extremely high. Home prices are high, mortgages are high, rental costs are high, and those are things he cannot deny. And you look at, I appreciate his optimism. That's his job, is to paint a rosy picture. He would not answer your question on what the feds are going to do, and if they raise interest rates, that's going to be a huge impact on the American people and the economy and the prices they're paying. But you look at the polling numbers. Gallup poll recently questioned Americans on your confidence in the economy. 42% of Americans say they feel poorly about the economy, and 75% say they don't see it getting any better. And with more talk, like we just heard, about showing optimism but not seeing any signs of progress, that's going to continue
that's not fair.
And
Alice,
I will
you
actually
talked about the signs of progress. So you have to admit, you talked about the job market, the unemployment rate, gas prices going down, but he continues to admit that there is a problem and they want to solve it. Where are the Republicans that want to solve it?
And I do want to note, this is actually interesting. My colleague Carrie Anton has out polling that Americans currently say that economic issues represent the most important problem is average for elections since 1988. So yes, it is still important, but it's not higher now than it has been other years since 1988. I do want to get to what's going on with the immigration situation. Let's talk about that. First of all, Alice, what do you say to Mayor Eric Adams, who says that these Republican governors, what they are doing, busing these migrants to various Democratic cities, is a humanitarian crisis that is created by human hands?
A humanitarian crisis created by human hands is the crisis at the border created by the failed policies of this current administration. When he takes away policies such as Title 42 and Remain in Mexico, that sends a welcome signal to immigrants to come into this country, and there was not a plan in place to do so. The crisis is also Democrats, Vice President Harris, as well as other officials in this administration, saying the border is secure. It's not secure. And the press secretary saying people aren't just walking across the border. That's not true. That's why we see border states. Right now we're on pace to have Customs and Border officials to have more than 2 million encounters with immigrants at the border, and border states by sheer proximity shouldn't bear the burden of these failed immigration policies of this administration. And they were left with no choice but to provide sanctuary and relief in cities like New York and other places across the country that say they're sanctuary cities and say they're willing to take these people in. If that's the case, then Mayor Adams should be thankful that we're expecting him to live up to his word.
I want to get your response to what she said, but also Vice President Kamala Harris saying that the border is under control. I mean, you have Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar, who has a district on the border, saying that's wrong. Why would she say something that is verifiably false?
What she was talking about was that today there is more border resources to go towards border security than at any other time in history. Under Democratic administrations, we have increased border resources for border security than under any other Republican administrations. And so to me, it is laughable when Republicans say that the Biden administration has failed to, quote, secure the border, when it's been Democrats, the ones who have always put forward solutions, including legislatively, for comprehensive immigration reform, to try to really fix this immigration crisis that has been going on for decades. And it has always been Republicans, the one that has shut the door. Conservative Republicans in 2013 shut the door on this. DeSantis is a complete hypocrite on this, because in 2018, there was a bill by 2 Republican members of Congress putting forward real solutions with Democrats, and Ron DeSantis, as part of the Freedom Caucus, said there was no way he would ever support that kind of immigration change. And so I'm sorry, DeSantis is completely not credible on this issue. This is toxic to the exact Latino voters that he is trying to go after in Florida, the Venezuelans. He is harming the Venezuelan community. It's your familias, Venezuelan voters in Florida, that are being really hurt by this, and across the country. And so to me, this is toxic, not just for Hispanic voters, but for all Americans who understand that this needs to be humane, not chaotic, and it needs to be a process that has been put in place by the administration, but Ron DeSantis has completely flouted it.
A lot of passion here. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We do have to go, but to be continued, because the situation is not going away anytime soon.
right.
As Ron DeSantis himself said, this is just the beginning. Alice Stewart, Maria Cardona, thank you. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Pam.